Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bogey Proof. We got Matt and Mike on the line, producer Paul in the background, ready to chat a little bit of a fall golf series on the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, do a little recap of that, and then kind of dive into what the cold weather and fall, winter golf and cocktails and all that good stuff means. So Matt, where are you coming from, and what are you sipping on?
We're in West Hartford, just wrapping up work here on a fine Tuesday evening, and we're sipping on a couple different things. Today was the last day on the job at KPMG, so shout out to them. So I got a couple of different cocktails, doing a mini celebration here by myself tonight. But I got a canned cocktail from TJ. Found a stray in the fridge. A little, I think it was like the blueberry shrub vodka soda. Very tasty, nice and refreshing. And then I'm gonna follow that up with just like a good old classic Bud Light. And then after this, I'll probably switch over to a little bit of whiskey or something like that as a little nightcap to just celebrate the tenure at KPMG coming to an end. So quite a variety pack this evening. We'll see how this Tuesday goes, and stay tuned. But Mikey, what are you sipping on? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, you're gonna sleep well tonight. That's what I get. That's what I get from that lineup, especially on a Tuesday, right? Like you're running around, you don't think you're that tired. You have three cocktails. In this case, a beer, a cocktail, a few other different things. Like you'll be ready to put your head on the pillow. But
Absolutely.
come to you guys from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and drinking a nice Guinness. My good friend Erik left these at the house a few weeks ago when him and a couple buddies were up here visiting, and I'm slowly just knocking them back. It's not one of
Chipping
those
away.
things that you have three or four one night, unless you're in Ireland at a proper pub. That's the way to do it. But when you live by yourself, it gets a little it gets a little depressing if you're just chugging Guinnesses every single night. So taking them as they come. Once a week maybe, and finish these off and enjoying a nice stout.
Love that. Love a good Guinness. I mean, obviously Ireland is
Hmm.
heavily biased due to that trip, but like I've been mixing them in lately. If I go to a place and they got the right, if I look over at the draft list and they got the right nozzle and all that stuff on it, I'll get a Guinness if I'm just having dinner and like a beer or two. Like I've been weaseling them in. I've had them like where you buy the bottles or the cans at the store and like they're kind of hit or miss. Like
Yeah.
the cans are usually a little bit better than the bottles for some reason. But when I go to a good restaurant, bar, pub, whatever, certainly grabbing a Guinness if I'm just there for a beer or two and moving along. But
I was talking to producer Paul a little bit before too. Like, so these next like handful of weekends, I'm just like out of town. Whether I'm like headed to Charlottesville with you to see Erik this weekend, or back in Chicago, or back in Massachusetts for the holidays, and kind of at a point in my fridge and my pantry that like I have snacks. I don't have any real food, but like I have snacks. So I'm trying not to go to the grocery store. So like tonight, I had like an orange, an apple, and some cheese and crackers for dinner. But like, how do you like in order to get a proper meal? A couple extra calories from the Guinness kind of get you where you need to be. Like
mm-hmm.
a Bud Light doesn't do that for you,
Nope.
but like a little bit more full. I'll go to bed with full stomach here because I drink a Guinness. So
Absolutely.
it's not just tasty, but it's also strategic in this case.
Strategic. I like that. I'm usually like that with my like liquor consumption. Like I feel like every time we're on here and like what am I drinking? I'm like, had one of these laying around, had a half a bottle here laying around, like a little bit left in that bottle. But you got the same thing on the food side, so I appreciate that. Nice and strategic. I like that.
Yeah, but let's kick it off and chat a little. Maybe just recap the fall series on the PGA Tour. I know it's not over. Um, a couple more. I'm trying to think I think they're playing in Houston this week, and then they go to Sea Island. Uh, wrapping up in Naples. So I think there's still a few kind of fun tournaments. It's not great fields by any means. But maybe let's just do a quick recap of kind of the fall series. I know your guy Rory got it done. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
maybe quick comments on the CJ Cup out there, and then transition into our fifth international winner in a row, Victor Hovland this week at Mayakoba. Maybe kind of quick thoughts on CJ Cup, and then also here in Mexico.
Yeah, Rory. I mean, I'm always biased there, so just kind of deal with the hot takes that are about to come. But I thought that one was, for a guy who had one of the worst years of his career, he got 2 wins in the calendar year of 2021. Like it's kind of just, none of it was pretty all year. Obviously in the majors was no good, but like when your floor and like we talked a lot about like borderline rock bottom this year for his golf game is 2 wins in the calendar year. I mean, that's just like a little like, hey, like let's remember like how ridiculously talented he is, right? Like, I mean, if he doesn't need to have his A game to have, a top 10, top 15 in the FedEx Cup type of year, right? So I guess it stood out to me in the fact that, like, you know what, we don't need to hammer the panic button here. Like, he's still Rory McIlroy, and if he gets a little bit in the right headspace, I mean, he's spoken out a lot in the last 18 months about with COVID and travel and having a new kid, like he's just tired, like he's a little burnt out. He's been like after the US Open at Winged Foot, he started trying to change some things with his swing. And then I think he spoke to a lot after his win of the fact that like, hey, like I'm good enough being myself. I don't need to, reinvent anything or redo anything. Like I need to just go back to making it fun and just staying like playing my game and like understanding that that's good enough. And like, for me, that sounds like it's a headspace thing, right? Like it sounds like if he's just like I think he left Pete Cowan already. I think he kind of went. He tried that out over the summer, and I think he has switched that, and that was part of him kind of coming to that realization. But I think, in short, it's just like the fact that he's again 2 wins in like literally his worst year, and he went to the lowest in his official World Golf rankings like since like ever. It feels like since like his rookie season, first 2 years on tour, whatever the exact stat is, but. It's just a little bit promising. It gives me like a glimmer of hope. Like, all right, hey, you kind of went out there and kind of proved that theory out in your brain of like, hey, I'm good enough as is. Because he beat Colin Morikawa. I mean, Ricky Fowler hasn't been in the mix a lot, but Ricky was in the last group with him. That was like not a weak field at the CJ Cup. That's one of the fall series ones that gets like a pretty decent field, like a limited field event and whatnot. So it was good to see him, win in like a new mindset and have a new approach about it. And it just gives me a glimmer of hope that, he went and won that. He's been off for a few weeks now. I can't remember when his next start is, but he's got some time to kind of go home, recoup. It seems like COVID stuff, at least between Europe and the States, is getting a little bit more lax where the travel won't be as ridiculous for him and his family if he wants to go home and see his parents, whatever. I know he lives in Florida, I believe, but yeah, so it's promising, right? For a Rory fan, I think it's, hey, like, let's build on that, rest and recover, whatever, whether it's physically, mentally, like take that break so you don't get, avoid the burnout here, and then kind of come out firing come, December, and the trip to Hawaii and, whatever else comes of his, early season schedule prior to, the first major of the year in, 5 months at Augusta. And then, so that was my Rory thoughts. I'll kind of let you take the Victor Hovland train here, but he's impressive, very impressive as 23, whatever he is, like super young Victor Hovland. It's impressive to see him get 3 wins, back, like defend a title. I think that means something, because it's just another PGA Tour win. It's not a major by any means, but to be able to defend something, I think that shows you're in a good spot mentally to be able to manage your expectations going into a week and keep yourself in the right headspace and like things of that nature. Because that's something that's you don't see a lot on the PGA Tour these days, is anybody defend anything. Like you very rarely see back-to-back winners of the same event. Like I think I really want to say the last person to repeat anything was Brooks with the PGA. I feel like I saw that tweet floating around this week after Hovland won, but I can't think of somebody repeating at an event. And obviously COVID kind of fucked up the schedule a little bit, so it's a little bit difficult too. But I can't think of anybody repeating at an event since Brooks did Bellerive and Bethpage.
Bethpage.
Yeah, Bethpage.
Yeah.
But
yeah, fun to watch Rory get it done. Classic kind of just like great conditions out there in Vegas, and just like tee it up, hit it hard, and then just hit the irons to the moon and, make some putts. Nice to see him roll a couple in and take it low. We've seen him win, right? He won at at Quail Hollow in Charlotte this year on a big boy golf course, but really like pristine conditions. So put him on kind of like a not quirky golf course and kind of let it all be out there in front of him, and the man kind of just gets it done. Um, Switching gears to Victor Hovland, I thought it was impressive. I think he is just such a pure ball striker. He is so much fun to watch hit the irons. He doesn't hit it straight every single time. He works it, he flights it, but he has just like such a true and like almost homegrown golf swing. It makes you realize that you don't have to have a cookie cutter golf swing to play with power and play with precision. So like it's really fun to watch him, and like he aims at 30 yards right off the tee and then he pulls the shit out of it back in play. Or right, like he just like covers it. He's got big forearms and he just like covers it and hits like low piercing like draws that the wind does not touch, right? He can get
Yeah.
at flags with like there's no flag that he can't get at. But he's also just like super consistent. If he doesn't feel comfortable with the shot, he plays to the middle of the green.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of talk about his improved short game. Um, I was impressed, I guess. I think the thing down there in Mayakoba is it's really grainy and it's, kind of like South Florida type of turf. So it limits the type of shots you can hit. You kind of got to open it up and dig it out. I'm not 100% sold on his short game until I see him nip it off a real tight lie.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say that sounds like this becomes easy because I have no options, right? Like no
yeah,
creativity and not having to like, especially a tight line, have to pick it, or you got to really commit to a shot when you're in a tight line,
yeah,
right? Because you
and
can't kind of and like whiff it through there, like.
it just doesn't look quite right. He
Mhm.
stands really far away from it, and it's coming from the inside a lot, which
Yeah.
I I appreciate that because that really helps with the bounce.
Mhm.
And for people struggling out there to use the bounce of the club, um, you know, coming over the top when you chip doesn't allow you to use the bounce of the club. So feel like you're drawing your lob shots or your pitch shots a little bit. It'll allow you to come from the inside, use the bounce, and then release the club. So it's just odd to see a professional doing it.
Mhm.
It almost looks like one of those like drills, or it
Yeah.
almost looks like kind of like a mid handicapper that's
Yeah.
going to a short game guy. So it looks kind of odd. I mean, you can't fight the results. Obviously, he played really well this week.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, he rolls it well too. It's really just been the
yeah,
kind of the short game around the greens. It's not like he's been a sketchy putter. I mean, he rolls it at an appropriate level. I'd say he's not like one of the best putters on tour, but he rolls it well enough. It's just been like the chipping where like if sometimes he gets in spots and it's like not that you want to get it up and down every time, but as a PGA Tour player, you probably get it up and down 30% of the time, and he's like 10. Like he gets it up
yeah,
and down once every once in a while. It's like it's a little sketchy, but it is I think to one of your original points. It's like it's so refreshing to see that homegrown golf swing, and like I feel like this day and age, a lot of people get caught up in being like an Instagram golfer, right? Like analyzing your swing, trying to mirror your swing, stay on plane, like there's so many instructional videos and there's so much like with like the PGA Tour, like all the video content that they put on their stuff, they draw the lines and they show all this stuff, and it's like you're comparing against like borderline perfect when it's like Tiger swing, Rory swing, JT, DJs is a little weird to replicate, but like you're seeing all these guys that are like literally the best in the world, so it's like when you go and look at yourself on the range, you're like, oh my god, and it's like that doesn't mean that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like it's like, yeah, there's obviously certain fundamentals. Like when you look at Victor Hovland at impact, like all, his hands and the butt end of the shaft is ahead of the ball, and like all those the key things that you need to do, compress a golf ball and hit it the way he hits it. But like the way you get there can be a lot of different things, especially like at the amateur and like mid handicap and like, hey, I'm a weekend golfer level. Like you shouldn't be trying to match like position points in your backswing to a professional golfer, right? Like you got to pick on it, like, or you got to focus on like, hey, at impact, I want my hands to be a little bit more this way. And like, what drill do I need to do to exaggerate that? And then you kind of fall back, like things like that, that I think, this day and age where everybody gets obsessed with like the TikTok, Instagram, like quick tip world where you're just overanalyzing like crazy. And like sometimes you just got to let your body kind of be like athletic and kind of do what it naturally wants to do, because otherwise you're never going to be comfortable. And I think Victor Hovland embodies that like really well. Like you can't say that about a guy like Colin Morikawa, right? Because his swing is like fucking picture perfect when you like break it down. It's like it's refreshing to see a guy like him. I mean, even like John Rahm, right? Like really, or like Tony Finau. Some of these like shorter, like obviously those guys are a little bit physically more gifted, with like the height and the build and the strength and whatnot. But I just appreciate that kind of reality check of like, hey, like not everybody's gonna swing it like Tiger, Rory, these guys where it's like everything's on the line, down the line. All these spots when you check on the backswing and on the way through impact are just hitting like the Ben Hogan book of a swing, like that's just not how you get it done. Like that's not how it's very limited to people that can actually swing like that and feel like athletic about it. And it's like I appreciate Victor Hovland coming out and getting it done and just being like, hey, swing your swing kind of vibe, right? Like I feel like it's a good thing to remember, especially going into like fall golf season, the off season essentially for us in New England, for all of us, our listeners here. And if you're down in Florida, like good for you, keep it grinding. You're kind of probably just picking up your golf season, but for us here in New England, it's like winding down, and you kind of go into like, all right, like kind of recap of this year and like what do I got to work on for next year. I think the biggest thing to like avoid in that is like trying to change your swing a ton. I mean, you got to work on stuff obviously, but like you can't be trying to replicate all these different things. Like kind of swing your swing and then just improve what you already have versus like overhauling it every, November, December, January and stuff, things of that nature. But
Yeah, for sure. And on that note, for our listeners out there, like if you guys, are struggling with something, or hey, I'm putting away the clubs right now. It's getting cold. I'm going to pick them back up in April. Like, what can I do in the off season? Send us a DM, send us a
yoga,
text message, right, and let us know, hey, what you want to work on, and we can kind of build out a plan. I've been doing a lot of that with my players here in Ann Arbor, and building out kind of a game plan on how we're going to improve. Both hitting balls at the range, but also kind of off when we're not on the course or not doing some of that mental stuff, there's an opportunity to improve the the game plan and the mental aspect of golf as well. So we're happy to help and give our perspectives. And if you're someone who's just getting into golf and just kind of wants some basic tips, we're here. If you're a good golfer that's looking to become a competitive golfer, and this is the year that you're going to try to play in a state mid-am or a state am or a four ball, right? Like we're here to help you kind of make that jump as well. I think we have a lot of friends in that space that maybe started playing more golf the last 3 or 4 years, and now they're getting to a point where it's like, well, now I'm like a 7 or 8 or a 12 handicap, and I want to play in my four ball, or I want to play in a tournament with my buddies. Like, how do I do that? Like, maybe it's on the golf course, but maybe it's just like, where do I, like, what website do I go to? What do I search? Like there's a lot of those things that people that have played a lot of golf know. And it's like, oh yeah, it's second nature. Like, oh yeah, you go on your state website. But like, if you haven't done those things before, you might not know. So ask us any of your dumb questions. Like they're not dumb. They may seem
there. Yeah, we're fortunate enough to kind of grow up around golf, and we did it at a younger age. So like at this point in our lives, we know what we're doing. But like you said, to a lot of our followers out there that we went to school with, and high school, college, whatever, like if you're just like kind of taking golf seriously, and like you said, you're getting down to that single digit area, and you're like, hey, I don't want to just play on the weekends with my buddies and like, have some beers and whatever. Like I want to see like what this stands up to, right? Like I want to play for some money, or, just get the competitive juices flowing again. Like we obviously a huge supporter of that. Like I think that is the best way to like get better, is to play in actual events and things of that nature, and like kind of see what your body does under the gun. But too, like we can give you some tips on how to get there and like how to get involved and how to kind of kickstart that stuff in your career. And like, it's just so much fun in golf. There's so many different ways to have fun with it that you don't want to like kind of like rule anything out, right? You want to make sure you give every little facet a shot of golf. Like give it all an honest effort, see what's out there, see what you like, and go from there.
And if you're worried about your, your get up and and your hats and your shirts and your clothing not being up to par for competitive golf, for those watching on the YouTube, buy a hat. We got plenty of them. We got some other things cooking. Maybe
let us know what you guys
some
want
shirts.
next. I mean,
Yeah.
we got now that we found somebody that can work with our logo, we like now have the options to do a lot of different shit with merch, like hoodies. I know it's it's like I said, it's fall golf season, like it's winter, whatever. Hoodies, long sleeve tees, like we can do like fucking backpacks. We can do like golf shirts. We can do whatever. Now that we have somebody that has like enhanced our logo, they know how to like put it on actual materials and whatnot. Like we have a lot of options now. We just want to make sure we give our listeners or supporters kind of what they're looking for. We don't want to just kind of blindly throw shit out at you guys. So don't be afraid to kind of get in the DMs and just kind of let us know like what you're looking for and what you would be interested in getting with a nice bogey proof logo. Or maybe we kind of do like an alternative line where we just do like just write bogey proof and like the cursive lettering. Like maybe that's our next wave of hats, like something different if you don't want the same kind of thing thrown out there again. But let us know what you guys are interested in.
Yeah, for sure. It's always good. Look good, play good. Probably most important when it comes to the golf course. So yeah, we're happy to help on that end. Let's recap a little bit LPGA Tour kind of before we get into rounding out the things you can do in the winter to stay more connected. Just want to highlight two. The LPGA Tour itself was off a little bit. So 2 events in a row on the European Women's Tour. The Dubai Moonlight Classic, that was
Wild.
a pretty epic event. Bronte Law getting it done out there in the United Arab Emirates. So that was a lot of fun. Why do we not have more of that in the U.S.? Maybe just the electricity bill is just like sky high, and they'd have unlimited money there, so it doesn't really matter. But why there actually is a place in Chicago, but it's a par 3 course, and like I want to rip drivers, into the darkness, right? Like, why can I not do that more here in the U.S.? So, if you guys know of any, let us know. I'll hop on a flight. I'll go somewhere for a weekend and play golf during the day, and then play golf at night too.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And then
I thought
Lydia Ko got it done too the next week.
Yeah. Before we get into Lydia Ko, because she's impressive. With the Moonlight stuff, shout out friend of the program, Jason Hattie. I believe there's one in Naples. It might be like a 9-hole, it might not be a full ass golf course, but I think there's something similar.
I played it before.
Yeah,
I've actually played Naples Links.
Hell yeah! So
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Any of our friends, listeners, followers, whatever. If you're traveling down to Florida this winter, you're trying, do a little Florida golf trip, whatever it may be. Give it a look, see if it's in the area, see if you're close to it, whatever. Because I think agreed. Like that looked so cool to watch on TV. The only caveat I'll put is like it feels like it only works in the LPGA Tour because if you get offline, like they don't light up the whole property, right? So it's like you got to keep it in front of you or you're playing in the dark, one of those things. Because I think, and I didn't watch all of it, but I think I watched a few holes of it or whatever where like one girl kind of, double crossed, went off the tee and kind of went way left on a little dog leg right. And like, you couldn't see her hit the next shot. I mean, she had lights around her to see the ball and stuff like that. And she could see where she's hitting to, obviously. So like, but like, it was like the ball just came flying out of the dark from like, for like the camera angle of the thing. So given the state of my game, like I might need, the par 3 level might be better just to kind of pull me in a little bit and keep me under the lights so I can see what the hell I'm doing out there. But it did look super cool, and I definitely want to give that a shot.
Yeah, I mean, that would kind of be a cool, like, right? We've seen in the last few years these, 2 AMs and 2 pros playing and, something like that. Like, why can we not, like, that would be a pretty cool location for a skins game, right? Like, under the lights, 9 holes. If you want to make it on a cool par 3 course, that would be pretty awesome. Then like we're throwing birdies at it. And it's like pretty it's easy to watch too, because it's like it's one shot, then you're on the green.
Right.
You don't lose interest quite as easy.
Yeah, it'd be so cool to like do like they do those, like they start doing those Wednesday afternoon things, right? Or Tuesday afternoons, whatever it was with the PGA Tour season, where it'd be on like NBC Sports Gold, and it'd be like, hey, here's Bubba Watson, Harold Varner, and like two like AMs or two other pros or like whatever it be. They're gonna go do a little 9-hole, 6-hole match and do like a skins game that's like a fundraiser for charity, etc. Like something like that. But you take that and like throw it on the 9-hole down at like under the lights kind of view and do that in the winter months. Like you're telling me you can't find guys down in Florida that'll be like, hey, here, go do this for charity, 9 holes, film it, make it a NBC Sports Gold only thing, whatever you got to do, put it on Peacock, whatever. I don't know. TV coverage is a whole nother story with golf right now, but something like that would be so cool to fill up the fall series and give people some content they would want. Like that'd be like, I just had it was so cool seeing like the highlights on Twitter of like, to your point, like hitting a driver just into the moonlight. Like it just looks like it disappears, right? Like that's just, you don't see that all the time. Like, like you got to do different stuff with golf to like, you can only show so many like high cut, you know, 7-irons to like a tucked flag over a bunker, and like because that's what these guys do every week. You got to like spice it up. I mean, I think it's similar to what we asked for when we do like, or when we talk about like match play stuff, right? Like just give us, we don't need 4-hole 72 or 4-round 72 holes like stroke play events every single week. Like let's spice it up. Not that they need to play for a ton of money, make it for charity at first, but just give us some new kind of content. I think would be like really cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a little bit of an untapped market. No, it's not like super feasible probably at the moment, but maybe in 5 or 10 years we have more courses that have that sort of setup. Yeah. Let's chat Lydia Ko quickly. I didn't get to watch a ton, but Lydia Ko is just fun to watch. It was super windy over there for a handful of the rounds, and she was just hitting like flighted chippy 5-irons from like 140 and just flagging shots. It's like, well, that's just kind of hard to fathom for me because that's just a level of touch that I've never experienced in my entire life. So I don't know what your kind of thoughts are on, but like just an exceptional level of skill. Obviously, she's one out of a prolific great.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to get at. It's like, that kind of like feel and touch and understanding of like where your club face is at and how hard you're hitting it and stuff like that. Like that only comes from like a incredible amount of talent combined with like reps, like she is just one of the better players. And like, she's had a little bit of a renaissance here in her career, which is wild to say, cause she's like 24. But she, came out firing in her PGA Tour career. A little bit of a lull, and like the LPGA Tour, like I feel like it churns fast. So you don't stay at world number 1 very long in the LPGA Tour because there's so many different players that are just like racking up wins and things of that nature. But she kind of is like re-entered another, kind of prime 2.0 here, like kind of refound herself here, got a little bit of confidence going, a little bit of swagger going, and she's just playing really good golf the last year, I want to say. And it's like you said, like that kind of skill, like that is just like I feel like as a like amateur golfer, like I have like a stretch of 3 or 4 holes like every 4 months that I feel like that, where it's like, hey, if you just give me a swing, I'm doing what I'm feeling right now, or I'm hitting the shot that I'm seeing, whatever it is, I can move or finagle or saw off or whatever, and I just have the feels going right now. But to your point, she just did that for like 72 holes, and like I think she made like 26 birdies, 5 bogeys, and an eagle, and shot like 23 under or whatever that adds up to for 72 holes. And it's just impressive. Like it's just a good reminder, like you said, like windy conditions like that. The skill level on the LPGA Tour is just like so fucking ridiculous. And like, you have Jin Young Ko winning 4 out of the last 7 starts she had, I think, until this most recent one. And like Nelly Korda, who had a ridiculous year, just like, she like somehow lost world number 1 just because Jin Young Ko just went nuts the last 2 months. And then like she gained it back with her finish this week. Like the LPGA Tour is just so much more fun to just see. Like you have like a group of like, it feels like 7, 8, 10 girls, ladies, women, sorry, whatever the proper way to say that is, like all of them like striking distance from like world number 1. like I feel like on the men's side, it's DJ, like Rom, Morikawa now, and like it was JT for the last 2 years, but he's a little bit behind now. But it's like, it's like very obvious who the world number one is on the men's side. Where on the ladies' side, like every week, it's like, okay, like if she wins and she comes in 12th, like things are changing, and like that changes the world rankings. Like it's pretty obvious, but it's the LPGA Tour definitely. And to your point too, it's different, right? Like their season ending or their version of the Tour Championship comes up in about a month, I think, at Tiburon. I think that's where they do it. It's like the CME Tour Championship, whatever it is. So that's coming up. So their season's not done yet. So this is it's been like a little bit of a European Tour swing, we'll call it. But they're coming back around and they're wrapping up their season. So there's some exciting LPGA Tour golf kind of in the pipeline here coming in the next month or so. That'll be fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, no, love watching the LPGA Tour. Excited to kind of see them finish up in the next month or so. It's always kind of cool watching the QBE and then also the women kind of in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, back-to-back, yep.
Playing the golf course slightly different. And I just think it's interesting to watch the LPGA Tour because you get a huge spectrum of like playing styles that you don't get on the PGA Tour. Like even the guys that hit it short on the PGA Tour, like if it's an open fairway, they're going to hit 300. There's just like ladies on the LPGA Tour that like hit their driver 225, and then there's Lexi Thompson who hits it 290 every single time. So you can watch a group. Lydia Ko's kind of somewhere in the middle, maybe on the shorter side, but like, right, if Nelly Korda and Lydia Ko are playing in the same group, they played in Hawaii when Lydia Ko got it done out there, and like they just play such different games. It's just intriguing, right? And it puts you in a place where you can watch like and see how it gets done in multiple ways.
Yeah, it's good to see people attack the same golf hole on the same day in the same conditions, two totally different ways. And I think you see that so much more in the LPGA Tour, where the PGA Tour, 98% of the time they're doing the same thing or trying to do the same thing. Every once in a while you get a hole that's just short enough where you get like the elite or longest hitters on the tour that give it a poke where everybody else hits a hybrid or whatever, lays up one way or the other, whatever club they're hitting. I think the LPGA Tour has a much better like viewing perspective to kind of show all those things. But I think it's just it just offers a lot more as like a golf fan, like a lot more thought and like, oh, that's cool. Like, look at how she did that. Look at how he did that. Like we've said it a million times. It's just so much more like comparable, relatable, whatever the correct word is there. But good. It's a good time to kind of, fall series for the men's side, like especially after the COVID year. I think a lot of the guys are kind of taking a step back and like trying to rest, recoup, recover, and get ready for, a busy 2022. Where on the women's side, like there's some very important and really strong fields and good golf to be played in the next month or so. So definitely give it a good effort to kind of pop over there and watch some of that. Yeah,
for sure. Well, why don't we transition a little bit away from kind of professional golf and chat a little bit, maybe talk our own experiences as far as like, this is a difficult time of year to get out there because like maybe we get like one day every few weeks that's warm enough to get out there on a real golf course or hit balls outside. For Erik on the line here now, maybe he gets a little bit longer season being in Virginia than the majority of us, or our friend of the program, guy like Jason Hattie down there in Naples, really kind of kicking it off and having the best part of the time of year for him. But how do we kind of like how do we keep our games sharp? If it's not hitting balls, what are we doing kind of to keep our mental aspect? I guess, Erik, maybe you could give us a little perspective on like maybe November is like just warm enough to still play golf down in Virginia. What are you kind of doing as the weather gets a little bit shakier, as you maybe transition to hitting balls inside or whatever, just to keep that game sharp during the winter months?
Oh, a little mute action maybe. Oh boy. Anyways,
Looks like we got some audio difficulties on that end. Fontaine, same question to you.
so what I do, and again, it's different where you live, right? There's a lot of different ways to attack it, but personally, what I try to do is, luckily found out about Chris Cody's last year, which is this place in Southington. Shout out, we go there a lot of pretty much every other weekend at a minimum. Me and a few buddies in Connecticut just to swing, a little bit. And when we're doing that, we're not grinding. We're not trying to do any swing changes or anything crazy like that. Like we're there to kind of have fun and just keep swinging more than anything else. But a lot of my work in the off season, and off season being for up here, we'll call it around right now until like February, March timeframe. A lot of it is just okay, it's a lot of reflection, right? Like it's all right, what the hell did what went on this last 6 months? What is all right, this was what was all right, this was a fucking disaster. Where is the that's the first step, I guess I should say. It's all right, what went well, what went wrong, right? Let's figure out where the focus needs to be this off season, and let's not just blindly do shit. So, a little recap, you got to kind of think back to all right, what did I feel comfortable with? What did I not feel comfortable with? Whatever. A lot of also in the off season, just being, working during the winter and things like that. It's really hard to stay active in general, not 19 anymore. I can't just wake up and just go play 18 holes without especially after being off for a few months and expect my back to be okay and expect to swing with any sort of speed, things of that nature. So in the last year or so, I've really kind of found a good balance with one, make sure I go to my chiropractor, shout out Basin Chiropractic. Two, making sure if I'm not working out, at least doing some yoga or some like borderline stretching, or baseline stretching, I should say, just something to keep my lower back, my legs, my hips, all that stuff, just a little bit mobile in the winter. You can't just sit around all day and work and then come back and do nothing because it's freezing in New England. And then outside of that, I just try to stay in tune with professional golf because it keeps me excited and you know there's a little, it's there's something to just watching really good golf that puts you in the mindset to it kind of raises your expectations in a good way, and kind of just being exposed to good golf, I think, generates good golf, right? So I stay in tune with the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, whatever it is. I try to watch golf in the winter, and I usually am able to do more because I'm not actually out playing on the weekends and things like that. So it's all just, and it gets you kind of that excitement that hey, I want to go work on this, I want to go work on that. There's a lot of different ways to attack an off season. I found the best mix for me is one, figure out what I actually want to work on and what I want to improve, or have a goal of the off season, I think is the best way to put that. Two, keep the body intact, stretch, yoga, whatever you got to do, if you go to the gym, continue to do what you do there, things like that, keep the body intact so you don't try to go play the first few weeks of the spring season and just totally break down. And then three, try and hit some balls, find an indoor range, find something. You don't have to do it overly frequently. You're not out there grinding on the range. You're just out there, hey, I want to keep swinging, I want to stay loose, I don't want to totally reset in 6 months. And then just kind of finding your balance there, and then staying in tune with professional golf, right? You want to just keep watching it because that gets the energy up for me, that I'm oh my god, I loved watching and I love watching Hawaii. That makes me want to go play golf when I see stuff like that. I love watching the West Coast swing, I like Torrey, whatever, but the fields, right? You get to start to see the big names out there again, you get a little excited. And then obviously Augusta comes pretty early in April, so it's you're building up there, and it just gets you in the best mindset about golf is hey, I want to play golf today. I'm just so excited to play golf today. I'm not grinding. I'm not trying to shoot a number. I'm not trying to do whatever. I'm just excited to play golf today. Right. And that's what for me, that is always the why I usually play really good coming out of the winter break, because it's I'm in that mindset, and it's not shit. I'm busy. I got this going on. I'm playing golf today, but I'm not whatever. I'm always excited to play golf. I love golf. Let's not get crazy here, but there's a difference when you haven't played in a few months. You're like, oh my fucking God, I cannot wait to touch a golf club today. Like there's something about it that usually leads to some pretty good results on the course. What do you do, Mikey? Like I know you've, especially in the last 18 months, year, whatever it may be, I know you've kind of invested in some physical aspects of the golf game, and I know you've obviously taken on a new role with the coaching stuff, which has kind of opened up some different mental approaches, and like there's a lot of different variables I feel like going into this offseason for you of like, hey, like where are your next steps, I guess.
Yeah. No, and I like a lot of the stuff you were saying. I think agreed. I think the most important part is to be excited to play golf and want to play golf. And, we see it at the professional level. People say, hey, like I struggled because I just like wasn't mentally in it, or I'm burnt out from playing a bunch of golf. That's just not a mental or physical space that you can be in to be successful. I would say for me, the most important thing that I do, I think there's two aspects. It's, the physical side of golf, and that's trying to improve your golf swing by hitting balls inside. If you can, when I'm home, I have that luxury to, sneak up to the golf course that my uncle's the pro at. And, if I get up there early in the morning and no one else is there, I'll hit balls with him and, work on some things. And I feel like I think my golf swing has gotten relatively consistent in the last few years. I'm not sure it's gotten better, but it doesn't really change a whole lot between like over the course of like a month or even a year. So I feel like I'm capable of shooting the same scores in February if I were to go and play golf in Florida as I would in the middle of summer. I don't practice enough at this point. Like obviously you play better once you like build on, and I think I've talked about it before, like the way I play my best golf is when I play a lot of golf in a row. But like I feel like I'm pretty confident that like, even if I haven't touched a club in a few weeks, I'm going to go and I'm going to play decent. I'm going to hit some good shots. It might not be like the greatest round ever. But so I think like just kind of being in that space and knowing that you're capable is important. So, finding some time to hit balls and, get in the gym when you can so that you don't show up, in the spring season, 20 pounds heavier or consistently less flexible. And over the years, right, that's going to become more important because like you say, right, you're not 18 anymore. You can't just roll out of bed and kind of be in the same physical situation as you were before. I think too, probably even more important than the physical aspect and working on your golf swing for me is having something to kind of look ahead to and be focused on. I get giddy when like the new state golf or like the new USGA like championships come out, right? And the qualifying sites come out. And now I can like start planning out my summer of like competitive golf, or like, hey, here's kind of like the 4 competitive golf things I want to do. Then I can come and work in, hey, like Matt, what's a weekend that we're going to get together and we're going to play in, Raimondi or Bon Tempo in Springfield. Then I can work in like kind of that middle level competitive golf. Hey, what weekends am I going to try to sneak home and play some golf with my brother and with my dad and my cousins or my grandfather? Like once I kind of start getting that mental picture of what my golf season looks like, then it gets really exciting. Then I can start like, okay, well, how am I going to prepare for that, that U.S. Open local, or like, how am I going to prepare for the state open or something like that? So like, especially this year, I have a few things I really want to do, right? Like the state open is in Long Meadow this year at Long Meadow Country Club. So even though I'm not living there, like that's something that's on my calendar. I've played in a state open before. Like I want to play in another state open. I can stay at my parents' house and I can wake up, and show up. And right, there's some other external factors too. Like I know my little cousin who's 16 years old is going to qualify for the state open. Like I want to play in the state, open with him too. Right. I was joking. I was home a couple weekends ago, and it was actually his 16th birthday, my cousin Ryan, and we were kind of just chatting about competitive golf and doing whatever. And I was like, Ryan, like I played in the same state open as your dad did, right? Like, because we played the Mass Open one year at the same time. So I was like, well, I know you're going to qualify. So like, I'll get it done this year so that like we can play in the same state open.
That'd be a good little bridge. I like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So that would be pretty cool. So like that's kind of highlighted on my list. And like that's the beginning of June, the qualifying's in May. So like what do I need to do from now to then to put myself in a position to be successful and be playing my best golf? And that takes some time to figure out. Like you gotta
for sure.
you gotta move some work schedules around. For me, school is a big component of it. So like what can I really do? And maybe I have to pull some strings in August, to make some availability in June, right? Or like I have to start thinking about, flexing some hours and figuring that out, or like chatting about, hey, what's the opportunity for me to be a remote for a week? So there's a lot that goes into it, even outside of the game of golf. So like that's what kind of gets me going is thinking about these things and wanting to be successful. And then also too, like I look to like the off season as a good opportunity for me. Like I think a place for me in the game of golf is to help my friends improve, help my friends learn more about the game of golf, introduce them, like we talked about before, to the competitive golf landscape or what it means to create a buddies trip. Like the off season is kind of a fun time to spark those things because we're not out on the golf course, but like maybe we're having some beers, watching a football game or watching a basketball game.
Yeah.
And it's like
game planning.
You start game planning a little bit. So that's an exciting piece. And I think we all kind of, for those that love golf and have been like kind of blessed with the opportunity to play from an early age and recognize what it's done for us, like it's kind of your place to help people along the way experience that. So that's another thing that I'm going to try to focus too, right? Like if someone asked me a question on my team, or it was funny, I was over at school the other day, the place I coach, and one of the security guards, she like came up to me because I was walking around with the golf team, and she's like, "Do you ever give lessons?" She's like, "Me and my husband want to start playing golf." And she's like, right, she's probably like in her late 50s. And like we have this hilarious email exchange back and forth. Like, do you have golf clubs? No. Have you like gripped a golf club before? No. Have you been on a golf course before? No. Have you been to a range? No. So like we're starting from scratch, and it's like, okay, well, we got to talk about getting some used clubs, or like really cheap clubs, and talking about what that is. And at some point I have to decide, hey, like I can help them out, but like let's get a professional in here to help them really with the basics. So like those types of things that are really fun, and like kind of just being a presence on campus and being involved in that has allowed those types of opportunities. I have a professor here at Michigan whose daughter, she's like a freshman, her daughter's maybe like a freshman or sophomore in high school, and she plays on the team, and she really wants to at least like maybe look into playing in college. She's not really there from a game perspective now, but like could I help her? Like those types of opportunities are fun. So we'll kind of see what that turns into from the coaching aspect, which is not something I really considered until this year. But yeah. Erik, can you try one more time and see if your mic's working, and see if you can kind of give us some insight into your winter golf regiment?
Third time's a charm.
Yes, sir.
We're live.
I don't know what the fuck's going on here.
Bogey-proof difference.
Yeah, seriously. What the fuck are we even talking about?
We're talking about just winter golf regiment.
Yeah. How do you like, whether it's physically, mentally, whatever, like what do you kind of like, do you just totally unplug? Like what do you try to do from December to March, or whatever the months are for you down there?
So yeah, it's obviously a little different being a little bit in the South here, but one thing that's nice is that I think like every year since I've lived here, going on 4 years now or 5 years now, I think I've probably been on for all 12 months of every year at least once.
Nope.
Am I gone?
No, we're good. We're good. Good. We're good. Came back.
But yeah, I think I've been on a golf course at least once, like close to like every month that I've lived in Virginia, going on 5 years now. It does snow here, but when it snows, it's gone in 2 days. And so I would say my off-season kind of regimen is I still play. I don't necessarily like put the clubs down for 3-4 months like we do in New England. But I'd say it's kind of a different mindset. When I'm going out and playing golf in January, it's like, wow, I get to play golf in January. Let's have fun. I don't care how many like what I shoot. I don't care, whatever. Let's go for a nice walk, hit some golf balls. So that's kind of like a mental unplug for me while I'm still just like kind of getting some casual reps. So I'd say that's kind of just like the premise of the off season for me. Other than that, nothing too crazy. I've said in the past that I want to, like Mike has done, kind of like do some like golf specific like fitness stuff, but never really gotten around to that. We'll see. So yeah.
No, that's I think like that mental unplug while still playing golf is like really important to have, because if you're always grinding when you're on a golf course, and like in a way you always are, but like if you're mentally trying to shoot your lowest number every single time you're out there, like it's like counterproductive. Like you sometimes like unlock shit, like for lack of a better phrase, when you're in that mindset of like, hey, I can shoot 112 today. Like I literally don't care. Like to your point, Erik, like you're just out for a nice walk. It's January, December, whatever it is, and like you're playing golf. Like who cares? You're just like hitting it hard and hitting it again. Like you're not thinking about, oh shit, I'm 4 over through 7. How am I gonna get this back on the tracks? Like nobody cares, right? Like
right.
And when you play that golf, like you sometimes just like unlock shit and you're like, wait a minute, I I just made like 5 birdies today. Like literally wasn't even paying attention, like where it's like you sometimes like you need to do that to kind of remind yourself of like, hey, like don't make this shit harder than it needs to be. Like golf is very hard, but if you don't have the right mindset about it, you're like doomed from the start. So I think that like that is a really good thing to like in your off season, how whatever that means to mentally unplug. Like you need to make sure you do that in like one facet or another, to essentially just be like, hey, like I'm playing golf, or I'm at the range, or whatever I'm doing that's golf related, but like I'm doing it in like the funnest way. Like I'm in like hey, we're doing this for the reps, we're doing this just to fill my Saturday afternoon, whatever it is, because it makes a difference. I think you get a lot more out of that, and you're not like there's difference between a July range session the week before a tournament and like a January range session, right? And like you need to mentally like allow yourself for those two things to be very different, but also both of them be productive. Like that's just like a very key aspect with the off season, or even in your off weeks, and when it's during the season, right? If you're not playing for a tournament, or you just played in a tournament, you're not playing for another one for a month, like, or 2 months, whatever it is, like you need to have a week or so where you are mentally unplugged, even if you're still getting some reps in. Like you gotta find that balance for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny that Erik brings up kind of like just going out there for a walk. Like last year around New Year's, I went down and I stopped by Charlottesville on my way back to Chicago, and my lowest round of the year, I shot 3 under in Charlottesville on the last day of the year. Like just came out of nowhere. It was a decent day, and we were just like, hey, it's December 31st and we're out playing golf, and it's just like, well, how can I not have a good time out here? In that circumstance, you go, and I have my best round of the year. And I remember vividly, Erik, last shot of 2020, hits a hybrid from like 215 into a stiff breeze to like 3 feet, makes a birdie, caps off 2020. Like those things, it's funny how those things happen when you like least expect it. You're just out there enjoying the day.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
We got. There is an asterisk on that. That's the dumbest hole in America.
It's bad hole, really bad hole.
It's a really bad hole. Like I think I've probably played the golf course like 20 times since I've lived here. I've probably hit 7 different clubs off that tee box. Yeah, it's really bad. I think that day I went driver hybrid. There's been days when I've gone like driver wedge. That tells you how bad of a hole it is.
Yeah, that's just like annoying. That's too much mental. Like I'm trying to figure out exactly what you're trying to hit, and no, yeah. I'm out on that.
Yeah, one time I tried playing it up the 17th hole way left, just to see what would happen. It's just it's really bad.
For our New England golfers out there, if you've ever played Blackstone National, it's kind of like the 18th hole at Blackstone National. You kind of got to like just like bunt a 3-wood out there, like 250, and there's like terrible hazards on both sides. And then you got to play your second shot. In this case, it's a little bit downhill and over a ravine area. At Blackstone, it's like up a hill, but it's like such a tight tee shot. It's not it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not that tight of a tee shot, but because there's so much crap there, and because your second shot is so predicated on where in the fairway you hit your tee ball, it just puts a lot of pressure. And it's just being the 18th hole at both places, it's just like, for an otherwise kind of interesting and pretty like normal golf course, it's kind of like not the greatest taste in your mouth.
Yeah. No, yeah, you don't like that, and but I think the mindset is like the most important thing in golf. Obviously, like you can do as much as you want physically, but if you're in a pissy mood or whatever out there, like you're just not going to breed good results. Which I think you guys have outlaid pretty well there. But one more thing as we get into fall, right? I think we want to dive into, with fall golf comes fall cocktails, the winter season. Like, what are you guys like as we transition to the colder weather, or just even like it's with the holidays too, right? So like holiday season, like colder weather, all of it comes at once. Like, where does your like cocktail, like we did our summer cocktail series, right? A lot of light, like vodkas, gin, tequilas, like soda waters, lemon, kind of grapefruit juice, like citrusy light drinks, right? Like, what are we thinking about as we get into the fall here? Like Erik, what are you whipping up like on a brisk November morning? If like maybe you're heading to the course, or maybe you're just heading to work, whatever it is, or maybe not heading to, maybe not a cocktail in the morning,
Cocktail before work,
cocktail after work, I should say, on a Saturday, whatever it may be. You know what I was trying to get at. But like, what's your November cocktail look like? Like, what are like the key, flavor tones, or like whatever? I don't know. What are you getting at?
Man, you just asked like 13 questions in one.
Flavor tones.
Yeah, I don't know. I made that up.
I'm gonna answer the November morning cocktail question, and then the November after work cocktail question.
All right, perfect.
So November morning, everyone knows about Bailey's, obviously. Bailey's in your coffee. Can't really go wrong with that. However, Buffalo Trace makes a bourbon cream, which is
Never heard of that.
It is
bourbon cream, huh?
Yes. So it's same thing as like Irish cream, Bailey's
Irish
cream.
Yeah.
But it's made with bourbon instead of Irish whiskey, and it is really hard to beat. So that by itself, that and a little coffee, you name it, can't beat that on a nice brisk November morning.
Sounds fantastic.
After work November, evening November, whatever. I'd say kind of like my go-to is make myself a little Manhattan. I'm a big fan of a Manhattan. Nothing too particular. I'd say it's best with rye whiskey, but I'll pretty much make it with anything.
It's fair.
And yeah, don't get too crazy with it. Just a little bourbon, a little sweet vermouth, orange bitters, and the key though is the Luxardo cherry.
Yeah.
Get the nice cocktail cherry in there, a little extra flavor, and you're good to go.
Simple yet effective. That's what the fall's all about.
Fontaine, are you any different? Do you get wild with your cold weather cocktails?
The pre-golf round or during a golf round, like the early morning one, definitely very similar, right? Like, let's get like some kind of coffee cocktail. Like, it's almost always just like, similar to kind of what Erik's getting at, just like an Irish cream of sorts with like a little extra, like, I don't know, depending on whatever Irish whiskey I got floating around with just a coffee. But I have been known, like, it's not like you're going to have a lot of this, or like you don't do this every week, like very often, but every once in a while do that like screwball peanut butter whiskey in a coffee. And it's like peanut butter and coffee is a weird little concept to get over anyways. But for whatever reason, like that peanut butter whiskey, like is like as like kind of sweet peanut buttery, whatever as it is, like it works with coffee. It just does. I don't know like what it is. I don't know the chemistry behind it, but it works. And a little bit of that, like maybe like not a ton of cream, but like just a little splash, just enough to kind of, lighten it up a little bit. It's like, it tastes like it was made at Dunkin' Donuts. Like it tastes like a fucking ridiculously flavored coffee that like all you do is put whiskey and like a little splash cream. So that's like the go-to one. Like if it's like a day, like if I got something special going on that I'm like going to play golf at, like, I don't know, whatever. Or if it's like that first one of the year where you're like, hey, I haven't played golf in like a month or so, and like all of a sudden, hey, the snow's gone and we're going to, Cedar Knob on Saturday morning with a big group of guys like that, like, either right before Christmas or in between Christmas and New Year's weekend when a lot of people are around and we go to do that and I haven't played in a month and a half. Like the screwball's coming out that morning. We're having a nice screwball coffee, a little splash of cream. Like that is the go-to in the morning for me. It tastes fantastic. If you haven't done that yet, definitely recommend giving that a whirl. Next time you need a spiked coffee, that's where I think you should go. But the like evening one or whatever, like obviously the beers get a little heavier, a little darker. Like I'm a little bit off IPAs right now. Like they're just not doing it for me. They're making my stomach all messed up and making me feel way too full. So I'm a little bit off IPAs right now. Guinnesses for sure. I do like a good like Oktoberfest or like a pumpkin beer, like whatever, like one of those in the at night. And then if we're getting into like the liquor, like go back, shout out back to Screwball. You can make like some crazy like chocolatey peanut butter like whiskey drinks with that Screwball stuff. Like again, you don't have like 7 of them or even more than one of them to be honest. But like every once in a while, I'm mixing one of those in if there's something going on. Like Screwball is your friend come wintertime. Get the peanut butter going. Like as the weather gets cold, it just mixes with all the other kind of like warm flavors and can't beat it. Mikey, what do you got?
Yeah. So I think I don't love like Bailey's or like any sort of those types of creams. So I usually just have a tendency to take a couple shots out there on the golf course if I'm trying to warm up. not like too many, but like just I remember we played one time this year, Fontaine, or like maybe it was last year at some point, and just like we just bought a bottle of Woodford out there, and anytime we need to warm up, we just took a little shot. Erik, what's up?
That was us.
Sometimes you gotta get warm.
I think I did both.
You guys
though.
did that too. We had the bottle of Woodford on New Year's Eve last year, the round we were just talking about. We had the little bottle of Woodford Rye.
So I think I might have played with Fontaine. And then I did that with Fontaine, and then you brought that, I think, with the rye.
Yep.
Because you brought out the rye, and I took a shot, and I made an eagle on that par 5 10th hole.
Yep. Yes, you did.
So that ignited the night, as they say. But so that's usually my go-to. I like Woodford. Also, there's a guy in the Twin Hills crew, Steve Krevlin, known as the Senator, who drinks blackberry brandy, E&J, the finest of all, and that gets you kind of where you need to be sometimes. So if you're looking for, if you're not super into whiskey, maybe try some brandy. E&J, cheap as heck. It's durable. You got a plastic bottle. You can throw that in there. Just get a pint, and then refill it as need be. Fits in a small pocket in your golf bag. And if you're playing well, you celebrate. If you're struggling, you commiserate. So those are kind of two of my go-tos when it comes to if I am drinking early in the day. Love a beer at the turn too, because mentally I'm not really caring. So appreciate maybe like trying on the front 9 and then just like having a beer at the turn just to kick off your Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And then afternoon cocktail. I've actually had a few more IPAs this last month than I usually do. So I'm kind of on a little bit of a spell of those. So I'd probably go at the moment with something local, some sort of local IPA, or even if it's not a IPA, like just, something kind of different, maybe something darker. Maybe we go stout. Had a coffee stout the other day that was pretty good. It was like an oatmeal coffee stout from Arbor Brewing here just outside Ann Arbor. So that was pretty tasty. But also like it tastes good when you're cold and you hop in the pro shop or whatever. Cause like usually the bar's not open. Right. So like you go and you like sit in the pro shop or something sketchy like that, or in the parking lot. So just like some light beers, like it's tough to beat a Miller Lite after a good round or like an all day session IPA.
Yeah.
That's a good one too.
Ooh, good one. That is a go-to. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing better than just like not needing a cooler, right? You just got them in the trunk. They stay cold while you're out there on the course. You pop the trunk, and now you got a party. You know, like sit around somebody's trunk for an hour or so, debrief the round, talk a little shit on who sandbagged who out there, and all that fun stuff. And you have a few beers while you're doing it. Like you said, can't beat like the Founders All Day is a great fall beer. Like even winter throughout, like that's like your go-to. That's your fastball. Like you just stick to that. You stick to the basics. It's where you live, right there, and like a Miller Lite, whatever it needs to be, something like that too. Always does the job, but nothing better than the fall cocktails. By like September, it's like all right, the vodka sodas are just they're running me down. I can't be doing these anymore.
Yeah, your stomach is torn apart with some
Exactly.
vodka at that point. But
no more Tito's, please.
Well, yeah, we're running out of time here. Excited for a little cold weather cocktail series for our listeners out there. We teased that a little bit on the Instagram today. Let us know ingredients you want to see. It doesn't have to be a liquor ingredient, right? Like say, hey, I really want to see
apples,
an apple in there, or right, a blueberry, or I really want to see a chunk of pumpkin. I don't know. We'll get wild. Right. So I think we're excited to do a couple different things and challenge us a little bit. We'll do a little bit of a series out there. If you're interested in making a cocktail, let us know. We love a celebrity cocktail.
Absolutely.
PGA, Jason Hattie, they've done those. So would love to get more people involved. If you got something you like and you want to show us how it's done, let us know and we'll set you up.
Absolutely. Keep an eye on the IG, Bogey.proof on Instagram. That's where you'll see all the fall cocktail series. It's where you get our merch too, through Instagram or Twitter, wherever. DM us, and we'll get some hats out to you if you want, and we'll have stuff in the pipeline. Hopefully, get some stuff in by end of November, right before Christmas, so we can get some new merch out to everybody. But we appreciate the support as always, and cheers, gentlemen. Always a pleasure.
Cheers, fellas.
I know you guys probably started the episode off like this, but what are we drinking?
I had quite the lineup tonight. I had a canned cocktail from TJ. I had a Bud Light, and I'm gonna go pour myself a little bit of whiskey after this for dinner.
There you go.
Yeah, last day at the job today, so we're doing a little
off tomorrow.
We're doing a little lineup.